they come out sloppy. Maybe I just don't have the knack.
Okay, here's a look at FansToys FT-32B Wright, which is their version of a masterpiece scaled Scavenger. So first, let's take a look at the front of the box with a nice illustration of the toy in robot mode and in alt mode. And the back of the box, you get your typical product images and the bio that you can pause and read what that says if you're interested. And the side of the box, FT-32B, Wright, and the other side, same thing. Top of the box, you get that same illustration of the toy in alt mode, and the QR code you could scan if you want. And the bottom, no warning words and stuff, but the same as the top. So that is a look at the box. And here is a look at the figure. But first, let's go over all of the accessories and everything that you get. Starting off first with my favorite, the bio card, done in the credit card shape, which I think should be, longer like the baseball cards, so that, the back can, have more room for this text that you always have to zoom in to be able to read what that says, which probably says the same thing as the box. But since I throw away the box, kind of need something to know what that says. But yeah, here's a look at the card, which is done in the nice plastic. Add to my collection. I really like that. And then the instructions booklet. And when you open it up, you'll see the content page is missing the die-cast trumpet that this comes with, so that may have been a slight oversight. And in terms of the transformation, this is engineered pretty easy and pretty intuitive, so you can figure it out. But you do need to be aware of little things here and there, just so you carefully manipulate this without breaking anything. Because even though this is made with better quality plastic than X-Transbots, if you're not aware of these little details and how to manipulate them, this is prone to breakage and stuff. So if I do the transformation, I'll make sure to point that all out. But here's a look at the instructions. Okay, and this is nice to have. And then in terms of the accessories, so first, he does come with his handgun that you could see. It's nicely sculpted, nicely painted, the dark gray instead of the black that I always complain about. So that's nice. And then the trumpet, which is made out of die cast. And, after I've been analyzing, comparing this with X-Transbots, I think this making it out of die cast was actually a smarter choice, because you could see there's no concern with breakage or anything. And when you bring out the X-Transbots, you could see that just a little bend here. I mean, this will easily bend and it will easily crack and break, because this is plastic and the type of plastic too. So my point is, I think the die cast was actually a smarter choice to make the trumpets out of. So anyways, here's a look at that. And I don't want to take up all your time, but I just wanted to make it clear that the tolerance of this is not done very well, because you could see there is a tab and you are going to have to fuss with it just to get it in there very securely. And then you're going to have to wrap the fingers around, and you're going to have to keep squeezing it to hold it in place until you can get this into the position that you want to try to keep this from coming untabbed. So yeah, the point is the tolerance isn't very good, but you can make it work. And that's kind of like the same thing with the forearm. So yeah, there's just little things that, they could have fixed. So it's a nice trumpet. Tolerance isn't that great. But anyways, that's a look at the accessories. And now let's take a closer look at the figure. Okay, so first let's compare this with the animation model and see how well they captured the toon aesthetics. And for the most part, I think they did a nice job capturing the toon aesthetics. It's just one little detail's missing. It's that little dark gray circle that should be on the top here that's missing. It should be the same color as the two rectangle pieces down here. But other than that, you know, the thing people complain about, which I like, and it's all based on your preference, I do like how it's very plain, simple, and clean, just like the cartoon. So it does capture the toon aesthetics more accurately than, you know, the other figures with all that extra detail. And if you want, you can actually bring down the crane to make this a little bit more toon accurate if you wanted to do something like that. It's kind of replicating the G1 toy. But yeah, this looks really nice. And in terms of the back is pretty much the same thing. You know, it's plain, simple, clean. It does capture the toon aesthetics very well. So I think, yeah, this is done really well, with the exception of that dark circle gray detail missing in the center. Now, in terms of the articulation, let's come up a little bit closer. We can also get a closer look at all the details as well. So you could see his head. You could see it is nicely sculpted. It's not a nice looking head, but that's the character design. And you could see it does have a nice dark red, metallic red paint. That's cool. And you could see the head does go up and down. It can rotate side to side, but no all around because it's not on a ball joint. It's on a hinge. And then when you come down, you could see the shoulders. They do go forward and back on friction. You could see how I'm going slow because I don't want to show you like, you know, other people. They're just doing, you don't want to be rough with a figure like that. Even though this is still built better, you still want to handle it with care. So it does go forward, back, and there is a ratchet going out to the side. You do get a nice bicep swivel on friction, and there is a elbow joint that goes just a tiny bit past 90 degrees. It's good enough. And then when we come down here, let's zoom in, you could see his hands. These are nicely sculpted, designed hands and fingers. You can articulate with no worries about breakage from the type of plastic, and the thumb does bend down. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about. X-Transbots needs to give us replacement hands for their Constructicons. And if you look, the color is a little off. That's because it's not painted. Don't know why, but my guess is because they wanted to make these fingers easily articulable, so they didn't paint it, so you don't have that extra friction from the paint. And then coming down here to the waist, there is no waist rotation, but you lift the hip skirts up and there is a crotch rotation, so you can kind of you know, get like a waist rotation if you want that way. There's a lot of joints here, so you kind of have to be careful articulating it, but the legs can go forward and back on a nice ratchet. And this always surprises me. It can go out to the side on friction, but you could see, I don't know how they do that. And then there is thigh rotation. unfortunate, well, you just have to be aware how to manipulate it. You have to lift the leg up to get some clearance here, and then you can grab close to the joint, and then you can engage the thigh rotation this way. So just pointing that out, because you can't, you could see you can't rotate the thighs here. It's hitting onto that green piece there. And then the knees, they do have a nice ratcheted knees, and the feet does have an ankle rocker and no toe tilt up, but you can get some toe tilt down. So it's just your typical standard, you know, articulation, which I think is good enough, especially since this is not going to stay in robot mode. But yeah, that's a look at the figure. I think this is done well, all things considered. Now, in terms of comparison, I don't have much to compare it with, but here is the first version of Toy World's Scavenger. And you could see the first one had the darker color purple, almost looks like a navy blue color. But yeah, you could see what this looks like. And the reason why I'm bringing this out is just to point out and make it clear, you know, the differences between the stylized, detailed rendition of the character versus the trending toon accuracy aesthetics. And that's not to say that this is better and this is bad because this has all this extra detail and this doesn't. This is all subjective, so it just depends on what your preference is. My preference is for the toon aesthetic, so I like this plain, simple, clean look. But that's not to say I don't like this detail, because these details, they do look nice. It's just, you know, this is kind of like art and design stuff. As long as you don't overly detail it, it looks nice. Because some of the newer, you know, third-party Constructicons that are being made, they're overly detailed. There's just too much of this detail. It just becomes a big mess. You can't even make out the parts, the arm, the shoulders and stuff, because it's just details all over the place. But that's the difference. And, you know, it just depends on what your preference is, what you like. I actually like the toon aesthetics, but I actually appreciate this, especially when it's handled this way, not overly detailed. So it does look really nice. So there's just one comparison. And then, don't have it yet, but you could see some of the mock-up photos that X-Transbot's version of Scavenger. And, you know, I'm just going to acknowledge what I think is the fact. X-Transbots, they always do a nice job sculpting the figure, painting the figure. They also do a really nice job capturing the toon aesthetics, but they also have kind of like their own style to them. It's kind of like a fusion of realistic, cartoon, and G1, which may or may not be a good thing. It's just pointing out, I mean, their Constructicons, you know, obviously is probably going to be proportioned a little bit, you know, more accurately to the cartoon. And again, you just have to understand, it's because this is bulky, much taller, because this is intended to be Devastator from the very beginning. As we get more of the FansToys Constructicons, I think that's going to become more and more evident. This was intended to be Devastator right from the get-go. But anyways, that's the X-Transbots. And then the Mastermind Creations. That one, I'm not even sure if I'm going to get that anymore, because they're just taking too long. But that one's kind of like a stylized cartoon version. Yeah, I'm not going to get into all the details, but, you know, you could see some of the differences between the Mastermind Creations. Yeah, So yeah, just have to wait and see until when we finally get that one. And then just for the last, Be Like M Go here, here's the Precious. This is the Takata reissue, the cartoon colors. So the purple and the green are kind of more like the cartoon. I have him up here because you could see he's really small. So here you could see what the character was based off of. So yeah, that's a look at the comparisons. So now let's go ahead and transform Scrapper to his alt mode and take a look at that. But before that, I forgot, there's one more comparison I wanted to show you since I actually took the time to transform it. Here is FansToys Scavenger next to their first release, their FansToys Scrapper. And here you can see what these two look like together. They actually look really nice together, even though you're going to get some people complaining, saying that, you know, this is not proportioned well, it's really thick, chunky, and it's too big and stuff like that. But yeah, you could see actually together these look really nice together. So that's a look at that. And just for the heck of it, since I brought it out, let's also zoom out a little bit and bring in the KO MP Megatron, which is just a tiny bit bigger than the official. And here you could see what this scale's like. And yeah, you could see FansToys Constructicons are really just too big. And obviously you have to know and understand why, because that's intended to be, you know, a very large Devastator. But I just thought I'd show you what that looks like. So again, since I took the time to transform this. So now let's transform FansToys Scavenger to his alt mode and take a look at that. Okay, here's a look at FansToys Scavenger in his alt mode. And now let's compare this with the animation model. And you could see how well they captured the toon aesthetics. There are things off, like proportionately the arm here is a little short. It should be longer, and this arm up here should be a little bit shorter to kind of capture the toon aesthetics. But the most significant for me is you could see the front here is not covered. It should be all green, and you only get a small panel area here for the Decepticon logo. But, you know, overall, I think it looks nice in terms of, you know, the toon aesthetics. It's very clean, plain, simple. So I actually like that look. And from the back, it's pretty much the same thing, except here you got this cavity exposing the kibble in there. So yeah, maybe they could have covered that up, but you know, I try to understand why it's like that. I don't know. I think there was something they could have done to clean it up, but you know, it's the back. Nobody looks at the back or the bottom, so it doesn't really bother me that much. But yeah, you could see this does look nice. And now let's take a closer look and appreciate all the simple details. You could see they put the screw covers in there. It's really nice, very simple details. And I don't know if you could see, if you look inside the window, see those arm controls, and then you could see there is a seat in there, which is cool. So FansToys pulled an X-Transbots here with the interior detail. That's kind of cool, but I don't know how much of a difference that makes, because look, you can't really see it unless you zoom in and take a closer look. But I still think that's a kind of a cool touch. Yeah, and in terms of the articulation, there are no wheels, so this does not roll. But this arm for the shovel does actually work. So it can go up and down, kind of put a energon cube in there if you want. And this, I don't think is meant to swivel. I think it's more for the transformation. And the weapon, you can actually store this here. They did give you a slot here and a slot up here, so you could tab that in and you could store the weapon this way. And I've seen some other people actually use it differently. You could fold this down, use that tab and put it into the slot up here. And once you do that, you can kind of have like a armored thing. So that's kind of cool. Not really my thing, but just showing you other things you could do with it. So yeah, that's a look at FansToys Scavenger in his alt mode. And for some comparison, here is Toy World's first version of their version of a stylized scrapper. I say that because it's not really tune accurate, but this definitely has a lot more details that you could see. And I'm only just doing this just to, you know, show you the difference and make it clear again that the details doesn't make this better than this, and this is not bad because it doesn't have the details. This is all subjective, so this all just depends on what your preference is. And for me, my preference obviously is the toon aesthetics. So I actually like this clean, plain, simple look because it looks like it stepped right out of the cartoon. But I actually do appreciate, you know, all this extra sculpted detail and paint here. As long as they don't overly detail it, it does look nice. It just, you know, doesn't really capture the toon aesthetics. And there are elements here that does make it look a little bit more realistic, such as the painted hydraulics here, and they're working hydraulics. So that's really cool. And just letting you know, my old Masterpiece figures, they're going to stay in the alt mode because I think it looks better in alt mode than in robot mode. But yeah, there's a comparison with that. And then obviously, I don't have it yet, or we don't have it yet, but there is X-Transbot's version. And yeah, I'm just speaking objectively honest. I mean, X-Transbots does do a good job sculpting the figure. And, you know, I think they do capture the toon aesthetics a little bit cleaner. So you could see the front parts covered, you know, the green, and even the back looks like it's all nicely covered as well. So yeah, I think that's just making it clear that X-Transbots are going to be my Constructicons and FansToys is clearly going to be the Devastator. And then as far as Mastermind Creations, that are taking forever. Again, I don't know what to say. It's just kind of like a stylized G1. Yeah, because there are little things I could nitpick about it, but yeah, you know, it looks okay, you know. I mean, at least they do a nice job cleaning, but you have to take into consideration that Mastermind Creations is all built in, which is probably the cool feature, and that's probably the main reason why that version is probably worth getting. But anyways, that's a look at that. And one more comparison, just to be like MGO. Here is the Precious, the original G1. So this is what it actually should look like. All the G1 in the alt mode actually captures more the toon aesthetics more accurately. So here you could see I was telling you the arm here should be longer. This arm here should be shorter. But yeah, you could see where this came from. You need to bring it up closer so you could see it better. But yeah, this is where it's based off of. So that's a look at the alt mode. And now we could transform this into the combined arm mode for Devastator and take a look at that. But before that, I forgot there was one more comparison I wanted to show you since I actually took the time to transform it. Here is Scavenger next to FansToys' first Constructicon Scrapper. So you could see what these two look like together and how they scale. And I'm gonna keep it short. I'm not gonna really point out a lot of the issues with this one, but because a lot of people have their own thoughts and opinions on it. But I will just acknowledge that yes, this is not very tune accurate. X-Transbots is a little bit more tune accurate, but that doesn't make it better. X-Transbots version definitely has some issues with the plastic and the engineering and the breakage and stuff like that. So again, I can go back and forth. My point is, I always just point out the difference, but I am acknowledging that in alt mode, Scrapper's FansToys version of Scrapper doesn't really look that good. But just for the sake of the review, I just thought I'd show you what it looks like together, because I'm imagining all of the rest of the Constructicons by FansToys in alt mode. I think together it will look nice. Even though there's imperfections with it, but either way, it's not going to be in my alt mode, my collection in alt mode. They're going to be combined to form Devastator. So just thought I'd show you that. So now let's transform FansToys Scavenger to his combined alt mode, arm mode, and take a look at that. Okay, here's a look at the combined mode for FansToys Devastator's right arm. And now let's zoom in and take a closer look at the details. And you could see how very clean and simple this is. So this definitely captures the toon aesthetics. And I know some other people will complain saying this is not good because it doesn't have the extra details like the yellow and black stripes and stuff like that. That's just, like I said, when we're talking aesthetics, that's personal preference. I personally like this very clean, simple look because it captures the toon aesthetics much better than, with all the extra details. But what I also like is I really like how they designed the crane so that it folds up in here. Because if you look at the cartoon, Devastator did not have this crane sticking out like the original G1 toy or some of the other versions. So to be toon accurate, it does need to collapse in there. So I really like that. I think that was a really nice touch. And then when we come down here to the forearm, trying to think, how do I say this? Because, I think this was a cool design. How they made this so that, it could fold up and go inside here. And, how they designed it so it could wrap around. I just don't like the execution because, this is relying on the paint friction from the paint to kind of hold these tabs together, so over time when you're taking it on and off, these might become loose, and then trying to get it all in here, it's a little finicky, but it works. That's the main point. It works. It just doesn't work as efficiently as I would like. So I just wanted to point that out. But the thing I really kind of don't like is I don't like the way they engineered the thumb joint here. First of all, aesthetically, that doesn't look good to have the screws facing the top. And in terms of the function, this does have some articulation, but not really the kind of articulation I think that's needed, because the thumb doesn't really drop down that low. And you can't really lift it up because this just slides in and out and rotates. But anyways, I don't want to get all into the details, but just pointing out, you know, this, I'm not really happy with the way this is designed. But as far as the individual digits are concerned, I mean, a lot of the companies do a good job on this. I mean, you know, the fingers flange out, the middle finger is longer. They have individual articulation, so you can get a good amount of articulation with the fingers. And what's cool is they did give you a nice ratchet for the hand rotation. And then, you know, you do get extra articulation going out. So good amount of articulation with the hand. And then coming up here, this is also cool. They gave you a nice ratchet for the bicep swivel. And they gave you a nice ratchet for the elbow. Yeah, and I know people are going to complain, oh, it doesn't go past 90 degrees, stuff like that. Ridiculous nonsense like that. Most importantly, it's how well does this function? This functions really well. And look, once you put in a gun, you could see it's not going to fall off. Like Toy World, when you have the gun in there, it's, you know, I'll show you a comparison with the Toy World. But yeah, this is very sturdy. And another issue I have is this Decepticon symbol is probably going to get scratched up, because you could see this is where the shoulder joint's supposed to slide up. It's probably going to scrape the Decepticon symbol. So that's something I'm going to have to see, you know, how that works. So that's just a little issue I have. And then you can nitpick things saying it doesn't clean up here, but, you know, that really doesn't bug me, because no one's really going to look at the top. And when you consider how clean and simple everything else here, this just adds, to me, I think it adds a little extra detail, you know, with the open space here with the little grooves and stuff like that. But anyways, here is a look at the combined mode. And now let's just compare this with the Toy World version, and see what that looks like. Okay, for a comparison, here is a look at one of Toy World's version of a Devastator. This one is the Toon version. With the green and the purple kind of matching more of the cartoon colors. But here you could see, you know, what this looks like. And let me see if I could try to show you about how tall FansToys is going to be. Looking at the stock images, the hand and arm comes up to about here. And the head is somewhere about here. So you could see FansToys is definitely going to be much taller than the Toy World. But more importantly, FansToys is definitely going to be much sturdier, much stronger. And that's not really to pick on Toy World, because the nice way to say it is this is an older figure. This now goes with my old Masterpiece collection. And the way this was designed and built, there are a lot of issues, and I'm going to point them out just to document them so I have it for reference. But like I said, first, you know, it's the type of plastic. You know, it held up for its time, but, you know, eventually when this plastic hardens, especially like on the joints there, the shoulder joint and the hip joint here, they become really hard, and trying to manipulate this, I can't move it. So I have to follow my own advice. Stop once you feel that resistance. And that's because this is just breakage waiting to happen. I mean, the plastic hardened, the joints don't move. So once you apply some force, you're going to crack it and break the joint here and also here. So that's just, you know, consequence of, you know, the type of plastic that they used over time when this hardens. So I just wanted to point that out to document it because, yeah, I don't want to accidentally break it. So I just want to make sure I point that out. And maybe it's a good thing it's happening because we definitely need an upgrade. And yeah, this is definitely going to be probably more than 90% of people's masterpiece Devastator, because this, you could see this is much stronger, it's sturdier. This is not really finicky like here. Like even when you articulate it, you know, these arms, scrappers arms there, they're gonna pop off. See if I can come here. This is kind of like the same way X-Transbots is designing the figure, and then they're trying to fix that problem by giving you a platform to stabilize it, which that's not really a good fix. But the point here is that's what makes this very unstable down at the feet area. And here you could see the FansToys. Look at this. This is going to be very solid. I mean, if I try doing that with this or even X-Transbots, you know it's gonna fall apart. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And it's actually the same thing here with the arm. Like I said, the type of plastic, you know, over time when it hardened, trying to manipulate that, it's pretty hard. And it's actually it's causing a lot of stress here, just simply because of the weight of here. It's pulling this down. So yeah, you just need to be careful with it. But anyways, instead of rambling, I just wanted to show you a quick comparison, maybe kind of like a preview of what FansToys is going to be like, and really looking forward to it. So that's just a comparison with the toy world. Okay, here's a look at FansToys Scavenger back in his robot mode. And now I'll just give you my final thoughts on this figure. So first, I'm just going to speak to just the individual robot and the alt mode, and just say that all things considered, I think this is done really well. Even though you're going to be hearing X-Transbots lovers, FansToys hater complaining, saying, you know, this is too thick and chunky, it's, you know, really bulky back here because they put this here, all this stuff. All of that really doesn't make sense, because you have to take into consideration why it looks like that. Because this, from the very beginning, like a lot of people already know now, is intended to be Devastator. So when you take that into consideration and you see how they were trying to still give you a bonus, giving you the individual robot and the alt mode, and how they were trying to achieve it to be very tune accurate, very clean and simple. Overall, when you take all of that into consideration, I think they did a really nice job on this. And as a consequence of the combined mode, you know, that's why this is much taller in scale with the other Decepticon masterpiece figures, and why it's thick and chunky, because they want to make the Devastator really strong and stable and sturdy. So all of that makes sense. So that when I take all that into consideration, I have no complaints with this whatsoever, especially for me, since I do not intend to keep this in robot mode or alt mode. So that's why I try to take my time to, you know, just appreciate making the reviews for robot mode and alt mode, so I can see what it looks like, because I intend to keep this in the combined mode. And just for one comparison, because I just wanted to point it out, you could see here is the KO Megatron. I think it's the IT. And so he is just a tiny bit taller, and you could see it scales okay, but actually, if you really want to be accurate, he is a little bit too big. And like I just said, that's because this is intended to be the Devastator. And when you saw the images I showed you with the comparison with Toy World, you could see that this is going to scale really well for Devastator. But anyways, those are just my final thoughts on this figure. And like I said, all things considered, I think this is done really well. I really like this figure a lot. Oh, but there are little issues such as the parts forming piece, the forearm. It works. And it's just, there are issues with it, just trying to manipulate it, the tolerance, the clearance. There are issues with this, and that's transforming it to the forearm and transforming it back to the piece here, which a lot of reviewers don't show you the reverse transformation, because that's actually even harder. So just pointing out just some of the actual challenges with this figure. But anyways, like I said, all things considered, this is a great figure. I really like it, and I don't give recommendations because if you want it, you'll get it. If you don't, you won't. But obviously, if you have any of them, you're going to have to get all 6. And if you're getting them, then you're going to get this for the Devastator. So that's it. That's my final review for the FansToys Wright, or their version of a masterpiece scaled Scavenger, who's ultimately going to be the FansToys masterpiece Devastator.
Look, guys, if we don't make it, it's been great being part of the team.